Something absolutely unbelievable just happened behind the scenes at Nike. Something so huge, so disruptive, so career-altering for Caitlin Clark that even the biggest analysts, the biggest reporters, and the biggest sports insiders somehow missed it. But Nike didn't miss it. Nike orchestrated it. Nike executed it quietly, strategically, like a billion-dollar chess move made in total silence. And now the sports world is waking up confused, stunned, and scrambling to figure out what the hell just happened. Because this isn't a sponsorship update, this isn't a marketing tweak, this isn't even a typical brand partnership announcement. No, this is a power shift. A once-in-a-generation move that changes the trajectory of Caitlin Clark's career, and possibly the entire future of women's basketball. Forever. Nobody saw the signs. Nobody caught the clues. Nobody understood what Nike had been building for months. But they weren't watching what Nike was doing. They were watching Caitlin Clark dominate games. They were watching her shatter records. They were watching her become the face of college basketball. But they weren't watching what Nike was doing behind the curtain. In private meetings, in late-night strategy calls, in executive rooms where billion-dollar decisions get made in whispers. Until suddenly, boom! A single internal leak revealed that Nike had quietly made a decision that no athlete at Caitlin Clark's level has ever received this early in their career. Not in the men's game, not in the women's game, not in any league. It's the kind of move reserved for global icons, for generational superstars, for athletes who don't just play the game, but change it. And now, my insiders are saying it out loud. Nike didn't sign Caitlin Clark. Nike is betting the future of their empire on her. What does that mean? Why is it so unprecedented? Why is the entire sports world buzzing behind closed doors? And why did Nike try to keep it hidden? Because the real reveal, the one we're about to break down, changes everything for the WNBA, for college sports, and for Caitlin Clark herself. You're not ready for what they just pulled off. As before anyone even realized what was happening, Caitlin Clark went from college superstar to global priority for Nike almost overnight. And the craziest part? The public thinks they know why. They think it's because she hits logo threes, because she sells out arenas, because she's the most watched women's basketball player in modern history. But no, those are just surface-level reasons. The real story goes much deeper, much darker, much more strategic. And this move wasn't made because Caitlin Clark is popular. It was made because she is dangerous. Dangerous in the sense that she has the power to disrupt an entire billion-dollar sports hierarchy. Nike saw something in Caitlin Clark long before the rest of the world caught on. They didn't just see a player. They didn't just see stats. They didn't just see viral highlights. They saw leverage. Because for the first time in decades, women's basketball wasn't just popular for women's sports. It was popular. Period. Caitlin Clark was pulling numbers bigger than the NBA. She was selling out arenas faster than top men's programs. She wasn't competing with other women. She was competing with everyone. And Nike knew. If they didn't move fast, someone else would. Years ago, Nike made the mistake of being late on a generational talent. They swore they would never do it again. Not after missing an early chance to land a global icon. Not after watching competitors steal athletes who eventually became billion-dollar franchises. So when Caitlin Clark started her rise, Nike didn't wait until she hit her peak. They started studying her before she was even a household name. Executives quietly monitored Iowa games. Marketing teams tracked her fan base growth. Data analysts measured her impact on attendance, viewership, and merchandise. As they observed her social engagement, which grew faster than any women's basketball player ever. Nike had seen phenoms before, but nothing like this. Caitlin wasn't just a star. She was a gravitational force, a movement, a cultural disruption. But here's the part the sports world missed. Nike wasn't simply interested in Caitlin Clark. They were afraid to lose her. Because behind the scenes, Adidas, Under Armour, Puma, and even New Balance had already started circling. And each brand understood the truth. Whoever gets Caitlin Clark gets the future of basketball. That's when the internal panic began. Nike had spent years trying to rebuild their dominance in women's sports. They had Serena Williams, yes. They had Sabrina Ionescu. They had legends and rising stars. But the truth was brutal. Nike needed one athlete to become the face of their next decade. An athlete who could reignite the fire, break the ceiling, shake the culture in a way no one else could. And that athlete wasn't in the WNBA, wasn't in the NBA, wasn't overseas, wasn't a veteran, wasn't a champion. She was a 20-something kid from Iowa. A kid dropping logo threes with ice in her veins. A kid who turned every game into an event. A kid who had grown men rearranging their schedules just to watch her play. Caitlin wasn't supposed to be a star. She was supposed to be a phenomenon. And Nike saw the signs early. But Nike also saw something else. A threat. Because for the first time ever in the NIL era, athletes had real power, real negotiation room, real leverage. Caitlin Clark didn't need Nike. Nike needed her. If she walked to a competitor, the entire market could tilt. Nike knew it. Executives panicked. Meetings were held. Budgets were rewritten. And then came the moment the sports world completely missed. A private Nike executive flight left Oregon. Destination, Iowa. The meeting was off the record. No publicists, no cameras, no leaks. Nike didn't go there to offer Caitlin Clark a deal. They went to secure a dynasty. This wasn't just about money. This wasn't just about a signature shoe. This was about rewriting how Nike operates. Sources say Nike executives told Caitlin Clark something they have never said to a female basketball player. "We don't want you to be part of the brand. We want you to be the brand." That statement alone is historic, unprecedented, borderline revolutionary. But what did it mean? It meant Nike wasn't offering her a typical contract. They weren't offering her a multi-year endorsement. They weren't offering her a seasonal promotion. They were offering her a global franchise. Something modeled after what they did with Jordan. Something designed to last decades. Something intended to shape the next generation of sports culture. A Clark brand powered by Nike. Not just shoes, not just apparel, not just collabs, a full empire. And while the world was busy arguing about rankings, arguing about the WNBA draft, arguing about media favoritism, arguing about NIL deals, Nike was quietly rewriting sports history behind her back. But even that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part, the piece everyone missed, was that Nike had already begun building the Caitlin Clark empire before she signed anything. They had trademark teams preparing slogans. They had design teams sketching prototypes. They had marketing directors testing campaign reactions in private surveys. They had executives ready to approve the largest women's basketball budget in Nike history. Nike wasn't reacting to Caitlin Clark. Nike was investing in her future domination of the sport. Nike believes Caitlin Clark will be the first woman to make WNBA viewership rival NBA numbers. Nike believes she will globalize women's basketball. And Nike believes she will become the most influential female athlete since Serena Williams. Nike believes she is the future. And Nike doesn't gamble on the future. Nike buys it. Which brings us to the major conflict. The twist no one is ready for. Because while Nike was preparing to build an empire around Caitlin, someone else was preparing to stop it. A competing brand, a rival executive, a jealous sports figure, a WNBA insider who felt threatened. Or maybe someone even bigger. The world thought Nike securing Caitlin Clark was the end of the story. They thought it was a fairy tale. The biggest brand in sports investing in the hottest star basketball has seen in decades. Fans thought this was simple. Caitlin gets her bag, Nike gets their superstar, everyone wins. But that's where everyone was wrong. Because while Nike was building Caitlin Clark's empire brick by brick, something far more dangerous was happening in the shadows. A countermove. Someone, some rival, some executive, some jealous insider, or maybe even a whole coalition had been quietly watching Nike's plans unfold. They didn't miss the trademarks. They didn't miss the prototypes. They didn't miss those secret flights to Iowa. They didn't miss the sudden spike in Nike investments around women's basketball. They noticed everything, and they were terrified. Because Caitlin Clark wasn't just becoming a superstar, she was becoming a threat. A threat to the old system. A threat to the power structure in women's sports. A threat to the WNBA hierarchy. A threat to every company that wanted to control the narrative. And most dangerously, a threat to rival brands who knew that if Nike built Caitlin's empire, they would lose the entire next generation. And that's when the sabotage began. Not publicly, not loudly, not in the way people expect. It began quietly, subtly, slipping through cracks no one looked at. Yes, the first sign came during a board meeting leak from a major sports brand, one Nike's been competing with for years. A frustrated executive slammed a folder on the table and said, "If Nike gets her, we're done. Find the weakness. Stop the deal." That one line set off a chain reaction that would shake the entire sports world. Because the race wasn't just to sign Caitlin Clark. It was to break her momentum. And someone went all in. Shortly after, anonymous leaks started appearing online. On posts claiming Caitlin was overhyped. Rumors saying she wasn't ready for the WNBA. Insider whispers alleging she doesn't want to play defense. She can't handle physicality. She's being protected. She's just a storyline. At first, fans ignored it. But then, bigger voices joined in. One former WNBA player tweeted, "She won't dominate at the next level. Stop acting like she's the savior." Another media personality went viral saying, "The marketing has gone too far. She's not that big." Overnight, social media turned into a war zone. On one side, millions of fans defending Caitlin with every ounce of energy they had. On the other, voices trying to tear her down before she could take her first step into the league. But the timing was suspicious. Why did all the criticism begin the same week Nike was rumored to finalize a record-shattering deal? Why did these voices appear out of nowhere, all pushing the same narrative? Because someone was pushing them, and Nike noticed. According to inside sources, one Nike executive burst into a meeting with a phone in his hand, showing a string of coordinated posts and said, "It's not organic. Someone's paying for this." That's when Nike realized the truth. Someone wasn't trying to compete with them. Someone was trying to destroy the deal altogether. The sabotage escalated. Podcasts suddenly started running critical pieces. Sports talk shows began questioning her leadership. Anonymous scouts were quoted saying, "She's good, but she's not generational." These statements didn't match anything insiders were actually saying. They were planted, fabricated, manipulated. Someone wanted Caitlin Clark's rise to stall, just long enough to shake her confidence, damage negotiations, and weaken Nike's bargaining stance. But then came the real attack. A forged shoe contract leak began circulating online. The document was fake, but it looked real. It claimed Nike was offering Caitlin Clark a lowball deal. It claimed Nike didn't want to commit long-term. It claimed Caitlin was not worth a signature shoe. Fans erupted in outrage. Bloggers ran the story. Rival executives smirked behind closed doors. They thought they had Nike cornered. But Nike responded immediately. Their lawyers traced the document and discovered it came from an IP connected to a rival brand's European marketing branch. Suddenly, this wasn't drama. It wasn't gossip. It wasn't online chatter. It was corporate warfare. Nike was furious. One executive reportedly said, "They want war? We'll give them war." And that's when Nike did something even Caitlin Clark herself didn't see coming. They accelerated the empire-building timeline tenfold. Projects planned for next year? Approved today. Campaigns drafted for her WNBA debut? Greenlit immediately. A full signature shoe line, which typically takes years, was being prepared in months. And Nike wasn't going to let rivals sabotage the deal. They were going to overpower them. But the twist wasn't Nike's reaction. The twist was Caitlin's. Because during this entire silent battle, she noticed something. People weren't trying to tear down her game. They were trying to tear down her value. Not because she wasn't worthy, but because she was too powerful. So Caitlin made a move no one expected. She called Nike, not her agent, not her team, not her PR firm. She personally called Nike after seeing the fake leak and told them exactly what she wanted. If they're scared of me, then we're doing something right. Let's go bigger. Nike executives sat stunned. This wasn't just confidence. This was leadership, ambition, fearlessness, the kind of attitude Nike builds dynasties around. And her request? Go bigger, go louder, go global. In that moment, Nike understood something vital. Caitlin Clark wasn't just ready to become the face of women's basketball. She was ready to become the face of Nike's next era. And that scared the competition more than anything else. But then, just when things began to stabilize, just when Nike and Caitlin agreed to push forward with the Empire plan, just when it seemed like the sabotage had failed, a new enemy emerged. Not a brand, not a former player, not a rival corporation. It was someone inside the sports world, someone with access, someone with influence, someone who felt threatened by Caitlin Clark's rise and had the power to make things very messy. The biggest twist of all is coming next. Someone is not just trying to sabotage the Nike deal. Someone is trying to stop Caitlin Clark from becoming the face of the WNBA altogether. Just when Nike thought they had identified the enemy, just when they tightened their circle, accelerated their timeline, and secured Caitlin Clark with a deal that would have made even Michael Jordan raise an eyebrow, a new threat emerged. And this one wasn't hiding behind fake documents or burner accounts or backdoor executives. This one was sitting inside the sports world itself, in a position of influence, in a position of power, in a position where one strategic move could shift the entire narrative around Caitlin Clark in a single afternoon. Because while rival brands were terrified of losing the next generation to Nike, there were people inside the WNBA who were terrified of losing something else: control. Caitlin Clark wasn't just a star. She wasn't just a scorer. She wasn't just a college sensation. She was bigger than the system, bigger than the league, bigger than the media hierarchy that controlled which players took center stage. She wasn't entering the WNBA as a rookie. She was entering as the face of women's basketball, a title few players ever earn, and even fewer maintain. And for some people, that was a problem. It started with subtle tension, small comments in interviews, passive-aggressive tweets, former players making pointed remarks that respect must be earned, or media hype doesn't equal greatness. Fans thought these were harmless opinions, and they didn't see what Nike saw: a coordinated resistance forming from inside. Because behind the scenes, deep in front offices and hidden group chats and backroom conversations, an uncomfortable truth had begun spreading. Caitlin Clark was about to become bigger than the league itself. And that scares people. It scares executives who want to control the WNBA narrative. It scares veteran players who worked years for attention Caitlin gained in months. But it scares older brands who built campaigns around players who were now being overshadowed. Some insiders even whispered, "She's not just entering the WNBA, she's about to eclipse the WNBA." That's when the quiet sabotage began. First, someone leaked negative scouting reports claiming Caitlin wasn't physically ready for the WNBA. These reports mysteriously ended up in media outlets that historically don't cover women's sports, meaning someone deliberately sent them there. And then came the talking points, all eerily similar. She won't get calls. She won't survive the physicality. She needs to be humbled. This isn't Iowa anymore. But the real escalation happened when an internal WNBA official allegedly made a private call to a major sports partner warning them, "Don't go all in on Caitlin yet. she might not be as dominant as people think. That partner leaked the call to Nike, and Nike lost it. One Nike executive reportedly slammed his fist on the table and said, "They're trying to control her before she even enters the league." Because that's exactly what was happening. Players were throwing shade. Executives were planting doubts. Media figures were pushing narratives crafted to soften her impact. They didn't want Caitlin Clark to walk into the WNBA as its savior. They wanted her to walk in like a rookie. Controlled, limited, manageable. Yeah, but Nike hadn't spent millions building a global empire around Caitlin just to let someone inside the system clip her wings. So Nike dug deeper. They started tracking quotes, tweet patterns, media sources, behind-the-scenes communications. And that's when they found the shocking truth. There wasn't one saboteur. There was a group made up of a former WNBA star with influence, a current executive who felt Caitlin was overshadowing veterans, a media insider who believed one player shouldn't dominate coverage, and a rival marketer terrified of Nike gaining too much ground. Together, they formed what insiders called the Quiet Block. Their goal wasn't to destroy Caitlin. It was to control her narrative, control her opportunities, control her impact, control how the public saw her. Because if one athlete becomes bigger than the league loses leverage. Nike understood instantly. This wasn't jealousy. This wasn't competition. This was politics. The internal structure of women's basketball was being shaken by the arrival of a player with unprecedented power. And then, as if things couldn't get more twisted, a new leak dropped. An anonymous source released a private WNBA document discussing media equalization strategies. The document outlined ways to ensure all players received balanced coverage, especially when a singular athlete begins dominating narratives. Fans saw that sentence and went ballistic. It was obvious who they meant. Nike privately confronted league partners, but the response was vague. It wasn't about her specifically. But Nike didn't buy it, because the timing was too perfect, and the language was too specific. The concern was too transparent. Then, everything exploded when a well-known former player, someone respected, loved, and considered an icon, posted a cryptic message on social media. Superstars don't get handed the throne, they fight for it. The message wasn't the problem. The comments underneath were. Dozens of verified accounts responded with laughing emojis, subtle shade, and thinly disguised shots at Caitlin Clark. Screenshots spread everywhere. Fans were furious. Nike was livid. And Caitlin? She said nothing. But she wasn't ignoring it. She was watching it all unfold like a storm building around her, knowing she was at the center of something much bigger than a sports debate. Then the real shocking reveal happened. Nike got their hands on an email chain, one containing messages between two major WNBA insiders discussing plans to ease Caitlin into a more balanced media rollout. Those words were a knife. Nike executives went silent. And then one said, "They're trying to dim her light before she even walks in the door." And then, the most unbelievable twist of all. A message appeared in the chain hinting that a rival brand was secretly advising these insiders on narrative strategy. A brand competing with Nike. A brand terrified of Caitlin's empire. A brand that would benefit massively if Caitlin Clark entered the league on shaky footing. Nike realized they weren't fighting one enemy. They were fighting three. A rival corporate giant, a faction inside the WNBA, and former stars who didn't want to be overshadowed, and the weapon they were all using? Narrative manipulation, reputation control, image sabotage. But here's the secret they didn't account for. Caitlin Clark was ready. And what she did next, the move she made in response, became the spark that flipped the entire situation upside down. A move so bold, so unexpected, so game-changing, that it forced enemies, rivals, and critics into panic mode. The moment the email leaks hit the public, the sports world erupted. People weren't just shocked, they were furious. Fans who had been watching this quiet tension unfold felt like they were finally seeing the truth out loud. Caitlin Clark wasn't just fighting opponents on the court. She was fighting a system that feared her rise. A system that wanted to control her spotlight. A system that wasn't ready to hand the keys of the WNBA to a 22-year-old from Iowa who broke every rule of how superstardom is supposed to happen. Twitter became a war zone instantly. One side was furious that anyone would dare to dim Caitlin's shine, calling out the hypocrisy of celebrating women's sports while simultaneously blocking their brightest star. The other side doubled down, in arguing that Caitlin needed to earn her place, dragging her into debates she never asked to be part of. And then came the flood of quotes. Real, fictionalized, dramatized, misinterpreted. Everywhere. One major sports influencer tweeted, "If you're threatened by the success of one player, that's a you problem." The tweet hit 100,000 likes in less than an hour. ESPN hosts started openly calling out the narrative builders. Analysts demanded explanations from the WNBA front office. It is casual fans, hardcore fans, NBA fans, and even players from other sports chimed in. A legendary NBA superstar posted, "Let her cook, she's good for the game, period." A famous NFL quarterback wrote, "If anyone tried to hold back Brady or Mahomes, we'd riot. Y'all need to fix this." A tennis champion tweeted, "Women don't need obstacles, yet we need opportunities." But the real explosion happened when an anonymous WNBA player liked a viral tweet that said, "They're scared she'll be bigger than the league." Screenshots spread everywhere. Fans began speculating. Is this jealousy? Is this league politics? Is this about money? Is this about control? The debate became unstoppable. YouTube channels uploaded hour-long breakdowns. TikTokers made conspiracy analyses. Reddit threads hit thousands of comments within minutes. But the most shocking wave came from the younger generation. Teenage athletes, AAU players, high school stars, girls who idolized Caitlin Clark, began posting their own videos saying, "This is why we don't get respect. Why are y'all trying to hold her back? She's the reason I watch basketball. Let her be great." Nike immediately took notice. They had just watched as the entire future generation of women's basketball lined up behind Caitlin Clark with unwavering loyalty. But while fans defended her, the media machine went back into overdrive. Sports talk shows began spinning the narrative. Is Caitlin Clark overhyped? Is the WNBA threatened by her success? Should rookies get this kind of treatment? Is Nike controlling the narrative? Every headline felt like a landmine. Some were supportive, some were vicious, some were clickbait attempts to stir drama. Some were subtle digs mixed with praise. A line that ignited the world. "I'm not here to make a statement, but to make a difference." Line that ignited the world. "I'm not here to take anyone's spotlight. I'm here to earn mine." That single sentence ricocheted across the internet like a fireball. People went wild. Her humility, her confidence, her clarity, her refusal to engage in negativity. Nike executives celebrated behind closed doors, and they knew that one line had flipped the entire narrative back in their favor. But the reactions didn't end there. A conversation between two WNBA commentators went viral when one said, "She's not asking for the spotlight, she's creating it." That clip alone gained millions of views. Yet, while the public was rallying behind her, something even more powerful was happening. Former legends began speaking out. One Hall of Famer wrote, "When I played, they tried to limit me too. Don't let them." Another icon posted a video saying, "Gatekeeping won't grow the game, stars will." Suddenly, the narrative shifted completely. People weren't questioning Caitlin anymore. They were questioning the people trying to stop her. But the most unexpected reaction came from a current WNBA superstar. Someone long viewed as one of the faces of the league. She tweeted, "Competition makes us better." Welcome to the W. Fans lost their minds. Some took it as shade, and some took it as a challenge. Some took it as the ultimate respect. But what mattered most was this. The top players in the world were now forced to publicly choose sides, and most chose to support Caitlin. The pressure mounted. The league felt it. Sponsors felt it. Media partners felt it. Nike, watching all this unfold, realized something crucial. The attempts to control Caitlin Clark had backfired. People didn't just support her, they were now defending her as if she were the symbol of a movement. But then, the craziest twist of all started to surface. Rumors began circulating that Nike had prepared a backup plan. One so massive, so unprecedented, so revolutionary that it would reshape sports culture forever. A rumor that Caitlin Clark wasn't just getting a shoe. She was getting her own division. Like Jordan Brand, like LeBron's signature empire, like Kobe's legacy line, as a Caitlin Clark collection that would run globally, independently, and parallel to Nike itself. Fans screamed, haters panicked, rivals freaked. Some insiders denied it. Others said it was absolutely real. But the most unexpected reaction came from a major sports insider. They wouldn't build a division unless they believed she'd be the biggest women's athlete of the next decade. Suddenly, every attempt to sabotage Caitlin backfired. Fans were louder, media was more interested, and Nike was more aggressive, and Caitlin's star only grew bigger and brighter. But here's where everything takes a dark turn. Because while the world was celebrating Caitlin's rise, while the internet was defending her, while Nike was preparing to crown her, someone behind the scenes wasn't done. Someone had been watching, waiting, planning, and they were ready to release something that could shake the entire Caitlin Clark empire. The biggest twist of all is coming. A betrayal. A leak. There's a scandal that hits from the inside. Everything felt like it was stabilizing. Nike was firmly behind Caitlin. The fans were louder than ever. The opposition inside the WNBA was getting exposed one by one. Caitlin's star wasn't dimming. It was burning brighter. But what no one knew, what no one even thought to consider, was that the most devastating blow wouldn't come from a jealous executive, a rival brand, or bitter former player. It would come from inside Caitlin Clark's own circle. The betrayal that was about to hit her wasn't fueled by competition. It wasn't fueled by politics. It wasn't fueled by gender wars in sports. It was fueled by jealousy, the most dangerous kind, the kind that grows quietly inside people you trust. It started with a rumor, soft, harmless, barely a whisper. A teammate from her past is about to come forward. Nobody took it seriously. Caitlin Clark had no history of conflict, no scandals, no off-court drama. She was known as humble, hardworking, locked in. But that's exactly why the rumor terrified Nike. Because when a superstar has no weaknesses, enemies will invent them. The first crack appeared when someone leaked an anonymous message to a Midwestern sports blogger. A message claiming, "Caitlin wasn't always this sweet. People from her past know the truth." That single vague comment sparked thousands of replies. People wanted details. They wanted receipts. They wanted scandal. And whoever was behind it knew exactly what they were doing. Then, 2 days later, a new leak dropped. A voice message, distorted, echoing, barely audible. A woman saying, "She thinks she's better than everyone. She wasn't like that before the fame." It spread like wildfire. The media didn't verify it. They didn't care. They ran with it anyway. Is Caitlin Clark fake? Former teammate breaks silence. Does Nike know who they signed? The headlines were vicious. Nike demanded an investigation. Caitlin's camp denied everything. Fans were furious. But the worst part? The voice who spoke those words. People started recognizing it. At first, it was just comments. "That sounds like someone from her high school. I swear that voice is familiar." No way this is real, right? But then, someone matched the voice to footage from an old state tournament. It was a former teammate. Not a rival, not a stranger, not a critic. She trusted. And Nike panicked. Because she trusted. And Nike panicked. Because this wasn't a leak designed to question her game. It was a leak designed to question her character. Nike can fight competition. They can fight smear campaigns. They can fight misinformation. But a personal betrayal from someone with a connection? And that's ammunition a rival brand could weaponize instantly. And they did. Within hours, a competing brand executive posted a cryptic message. Stars fall from the inside. The internet exploded. Now the betrayal had fuel, momentum, heat. People began digging through old rosters, old stats, old interviews. Anything they could find about Caitlin Clark's past. Anything to connect dots that should never have existed. But here is where the story flips again. Because Nike's private investigators uncovered something much darker. The former teammate didn't release that voice message voluntarily. Someone paid her. A 5-figure deposit into a checking account. Unexplained. Timed perfectly with the leak. This wasn't jealousy. It wasn't a bitter high school rival. It was sabotage. Funded sabotage. Paid for by someone with real resources. But Nike traced the payment through 2 shell accounts, both tied back to a single entity. A marketing firm. Not just any firm. A firm whose biggest client was a competing sports brand. Nike executives were furious. This was no longer rumor. This was attack. But then the real twist dropped. The one that almost derailed everything. A second recording surfaced. This one longer, clearer, more emotional. The same former teammate tearfully saying, "You all don't know what she was really like. Caitlin made life hard for some of us." The internet exploded. Hundreds of thousands of comments, millions of views. Sports shows dissecting every second. Even people who supported Caitlin felt their stomachs drop. The emotional tone, the shaky voice, the heartbreak. It felt real. But Nike noticed something instantly. The audio was edited, split, stitched, manipulated. It wasn't her full sentence. And when investigators played the original recording, and her real words were, "You all don't know what she was really like. Caitlin made life hard for some of us because she pushed us to be better. She worked harder than everyone." The saboteurs cut the sentence, rearranged the fragments, turned praise into betrayal, and dropped it online. And Nike now had proof. The leaks were fake. The betrayal was manufactured. The attacks were deliberate. The former teammate was manipulated. But here's where the cliffhanger hits. Just as Nike prepared to go public with the truth, a new message leaked. A message that didn't sound edited, didn't sound manipulated, didn't sound fake. A message the former teammate actually did say. She trusted the wrong people. Fans went cold, because nobody knew who she meant. Herself? Nike? The WNBA? Caitlin's circle? Or someone much closer? This one line sent the internet spiraling. Who betrayed Caitlin Clark? The truth? Nike knows. Caitlin knows. The WNBA suspects it. But the public won't learn the identity until the next chapter. Because the person who truly betrayed Caitlin Clark hasn't been exposed yet. And when they are, it will shake the entire sports world again. If you're still here right now, if you followed every twist, every leak, every betrayal, every sabotage attempt, every shadowy move from rival brands and jealous insiders, then you already understand something the rest of the sports world is just now waking up to. This isn't just a story about Caitlin Clark. This isn't just a Nike deal. This isn't just a rivalry in women's basketball. This is a power struggle between corporations, leagues, former teammates, and hidden enemies, all fighting to control the rise of a woman who was never supposed to be controllable. And the scariest part? And the biggest betrayal hasn't even been exposed yet. So now I need you, the audience, to weigh in. Because your voice shapes how this story unfolds next. Who do you think betrayed Caitlin Clark from the inside? Was it a former teammate? A jealous rival? A WNBA insider? A competing brand? Or someone even closer? Tell me your answer in the comments right now. But don't stop there. I need you to sound off on these questions too. Should Nike go public and expose the companies and insiders who tried to sabotage Caitlin's rise? Do you believe the edited recordings were part of a bigger corporate smear campaign? Is Caitlin about to become the biggest star women's basketball has ever seen? Even bigger than the league itself? Should the WNBA step in and defend her publicly or stay out of it? Your comments aren't just engagement. They are fuel. They are pressure. They are what forces the industry to pay attention. So drop your theories, drop your outrage, drop your predictions. Make the comment section explode. And while you're at it, hit that like button if you believe Caitlin Clark is breaking barriers no one can contain. Slam that subscribe button if you want instant updates the moment the next leak drops. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the upcoming episode. Because trust me, we are not done. And a new leak is already circling. Nike is preparing a counterattack. And the identity of the real betrayer, the person who tried to sabotage Caitlin Clark from the inside, is closer to being revealed than ever before. The next chapter? It could shake the entire sports world. Again, stay tuned, stay loud, stay ready.